Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. I wanted to follow up on my previous video from today and give you the first results from North Rhine-Westphalia. They're not final yet, but it is a good prediction of the final results. So let's look right into these first results. We see that the CDU could secure a larger fraction of the vote. They are the strongest party in this election. Then the Social Democrats come in second with, I think, their worst results so far in North Rhine-Westphalia. They lost about 4.5%, I think. The Green Party, that was to be expected. They surged because, bear in mind, the last election was in 2017. And that was before all this Fridays for Future and this climate nonsense that is coming back now that the health situation is out of people's daily lives for the most part. They get around 18%, and that makes them the biggest winner of this election in North Rhine-Westphalia. And I say a couple of words about that in the course of this video then. The biggest loser, both in relative and absolute terms, however, is the self-declared Liberal Party FDP. They lost more than they have left, and they end up, just the same as the AfD, a little bit over 5%. So they will be represented in the Landtag as the two smallest factions. The Communist Party, Die Linke, doesn't make it in there, and as you can see, they lost a lot and they're almost insignificant now in that state. So what does that mean? First and foremost, it means that the CDU is the strongest party. That means that they have to start now the coalition talks and they have to approach potential partners. The SPD has their worst results so far, and the Liberal Party is the biggest loser. The Green Party, they are the biggest winners. So it also means that the ruling coalition is no longer able to continue their arrangement because the Liberal Party scored that badly. It's not enough. And I think it is very clear what will happen now, and people in the media are of course openly saying this, and that is that the CDU will rule with the Green Party, and that is of course a match made in heaven for the globalists and for the dominant mainstream powers that we have right now in Europe and the Western world. Because the FDP of course plays the role of the party that wants to limit government spending a little bit. That is of course a joke and it's all make-believe, but you know, they sometimes have still to play for their target audience. And the SPD, of course, even though they are the biggest sellouts and have no backbone whatsoever, there are a lot of people in that party that still don't feel comfortable with supporting Ukraine in that clear way and with opposing Russia, because there are a lot of old ties between the SPD and the Soviet Union, and also a friendship between our ex-chancellor Gerhard Schröder and Putin. And even though he is bashed in the media right now, there are still a lot of people in the SPD that are very uncomfortable with supporting Ukraine in that way, and they would rather stay neutral. I'm not talking about the entire party, of course. I'm not talking about Scholz, but there are a lot of people in there, so it makes it just easier. And the CDU and the Green Party, they are the parties of the World Economic Forum, of the Young Global Leader thing and Davos. They fit right in there like nobody else. I'm not saying the others couldn't do it, but it's just better this way. Also, don't forget that North Rhine-Westphalia is the state in Germany with the highest population, and that means that what happens there cannot really be attributed to some local political effects, like if it was an election in the Saarland or in a city-state. This is a state with a large area and a big population, so this definitely has some federal implications. And also bear in mind that this is Western Germany. This is probably one of the most colorful states of Germany, if you know what I mean, and that means that the ethnic vote is really visible in these numbers, and that is also the Green Party. But also the CDU. Both of these parties, there are a lot of migrants in there. The more conservative-minded migrants, they rather go to the CDU. There are a lot of exotics in there. And the Green Party, this is the home of the more progressive exotics. And the ethnic vote is definitely a factor that goes into this result. And we can also see that the AfD, even though they lost some votes, because let's just say that the current political climate is not really great for them, but they have a core voter base that they could also mobilize again, and they are a factor in Western Germany also. Of course, they are much stronger in Central Germany, but even in the West, which is probably their hardest theater to play, they could enter once again into the state parliament. Now, towards the end of the video, I want to address a, in my opinion at least, important point, and that is, does voting even make sense these days for people like us? None of these parties really represent what we want, so why bother anyway? I said before and I say it again, I don't think you necessarily, or no, I don't think at all that you legitimize somehow these ruling parties by voting for another party that directly contradicts their program and their people and what they want. You could say that you give legitimacy to the voting process itself, but I'm not really promoting a system in which there wouldn't be a vote, so I have no problem with that. I think people should be able to vote. The question is who gets to vote, but there should be a vote. And then I just noticed that there are a lot of Anon accounts, or there is a lot of talk on the right about discouraging people from voting. And I'm not a lefty and I don't really hang out with too many of them, but I don't really see that on the left or on the establishment side, and that is of course an asymmetric factor that asymmetrically demobilizes the right. And I'm not telling anybody to go out and vote. If you want to vote, you vote. If you don't want to vote, I would be the last person to shame you or criticize you. I think I can understand why people don't see the point in that. That's fine. But I just wonder why there are people who operate on social media, and let's face it, right-wing people have been pushed to online spaces to a large degree. And then there are these people who really campaign, so to speak, on these right-winged comment sections or message boards and saying you shouldn't go vote because that is a sick system and politics is not a solution, as if they would gain something from people not voting. I mean, what is really their motivation here, I have to ask. Even if the AfD was completely controlled opposition, which I don't think they are, at least not completely, parts of it maybe, but even if, I mean, what do these people gain from discouraging people from voting for them or giving them their vote? Of course, if you're an accelerationist, then you should not say that, then you should really lobby for the Green Party or something. If you're an accelerationist and you want Western societies and our industry and our economies to tank as fast as possible, if that is your strategy, then do campaign work for the Green Party. That would work just great, I think. So yeah, that's just a general observation from my side. And I also have to say, Meuthen probably wasn't bought by anyone. He also probably wasn't an asset of some intelligence organization. He was one of those economics professors who were skeptical of the European Union and the euro and the money system, but they get really uncomfortable and naturally uncomfortable. Not fake uncomfortable, but really uncomfortable when you talk about the German people and our people. That makes them uncomfortable, so he fought against that in the party and he lost. But then there are leaders and people in the AfD, especially in our eastern states in central Germany, who have a very different mindset here. And I have a very hard time believing that they are controlled opposition in any way. I can just tell you for a fact who is the actual controlled opposition on the right, and that is the NPD, for example, where we know for a fact that many of the members are directly working for the German secret police. That is the reason why they couldn't be banned. Yes, there was a court trial that had the goal of banning the party because it's unconstitutional, and lo and behold, what was the result of the investigations? They couldn't ban the party because most of, or a large part of the leadership and the rank and file were working for the secret police, either directly or as informants or assets, and that is why you couldn't distinguish anymore what was just provocation or planted people by the establishment and what was really their own innate party members. So yeah, if you want to be in a party or if you want to vote for a party where every second person is working for the German Secret Service, yeah, sure, then go to the NPD. That's gonna be great. And of course they're more edgy, and of course they dare to speak out more because because they're working for the secret police and they're trying to provoke people. Yeah, it doesn't take a neurosurgeon or a brainiac in order to figure that out. And then I get the question also, well, what is the AfD's position on this and that, and are they really better? Well, to sum it up, the AfD's position on the Ukraine-Russia thing is that we should stay neutral, we should get our oil and gas from Russia, and we should not support directly or in that great deal the Ukraine. They were also the only party that categorically rejected these mandatory pharmaceutical products and many of these health measures. And they want to change the migration policy in Germany so that the ethnic German people will remain the majority, and that they called the Japanese model, in opposition to the Australian and Canadian model that focuses on immigrants as filling some gaps in our job market and looking at the key qualifications that they have to help our industry and our economy. And also, and I'll always repeat that, they are doing good work in parliaments because they are inquiring things that only factions in parliament can inquire. They're asking the government certain questions. What is the status of this thing and that thing? And then they make it public. And without the work of the AfD and these inquiries, we sometimes wouldn't even know what is going on. And that in and of itself is already a big deal. So do I put all my hopes in them? Of course not, but for the time being, they're the best thing we have in our parliaments. Alright, these are just my 2 cents. As I said, CDU will probably rule with the Green Party, and that is just currently the best result and the best combination for young global leaders. Let me know what you think about that in the comments down below, and take care. Servus, Kameraden.